ज्ञानियों के शुद्ध मनों में, साधकों के चिंतनों में, मेरी आस मेरे श्वास तुझ में ही समाए। साचा रूप साचा रंग मन में दिखाए, प्रकाशित हृदय में ईश्वर। हृदय में ईश्वर भक्त के समाए। साचा रूप साचा रंग मन में दिखाए, साचा रूप साचा रंग मन में दिखाए, साचा रूप साचा रंग मन में।
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। We have been studying the idea of Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is our identification with the higher ideal. Identification with the higher ideal is different from wanting to do good. There are many good people in this world who do many good things, all random acts of goodness and kindness, which is a good thing. There is nothing that one can say is incorrect or wrong about doing that. This is quite different from an identification with a higher cause. Identification with the higher cause means that your sense of self means that higher cause. For Gandhi, there is no difference between him and the nation. For Mother Teresa, there's no difference between her and the poor starving. What she wants for herself is what she wants for them. I mean, it is an identification. Now, many of us do many good acts and we sort of pat ourselves on the back that we are doing some good acts. And certainly there's nobody to say anything wrong about that, but that's not Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is quite different. Karma Yoga is your identification with a higher ideal. The highest form of Karma Yoga is your identification with the ideal of enlightenment, of seeing the self everywhere. Now, when you are adept at Karma Yoga, you are not only a great spiritual person, just think about it. Anybody who's able to do this will be a huge material success as well. There was a time when people identify with their work a lot. I know a man, he was working at a petrol company. He was working for ESSO, which later on became BPCL. So he would not go and buy petrol from an Indian oil petrol pump. He will take a longer route, go to his own and buy it from there. That's called identification. And there was one lady, one elderly Parsi lady who was very, very cute. She used to say, her husband never wore clothes that were not, whenever he bought clothes, he only bought material from his own factory. He was a manager at that factory, and he only bought material from that. He only wore that. Means when he bought, he only bought from there. And his wife used to say, that Dan Gando Chevan, he's completely mad. He thinks if he doesn't buy cloth from his factory, the factory will close down. It's not that the factory will, it makes no difference, right? To the factory, whether you buy from there or you don't buy from there. That identification. Even the staff in the house can have that kind of identification. They say na ki bhaiya ko aise pasand hai, or something like that. Ki babuji ko yahi chahiye hota hai. They are totally identified. Today it's not like that. No? Today the staff, they do whatever is your minimum they're supposed to do and they want to run away from that. It's a very, very different feel when you are doing work out of identification with a cause versus doing it, because you just have to do a job or because you're going to get something. So in olden times, people were very identified with their work, and then this whole thing started. People started talking like this. When you're in trouble, your work will not come and save you. Your family will look after you. They start talking like that. And talking about how men ignore their wives and look after their work and all. It became a very popular concept that men are just doing their work and they're least bothered about what's happening to their wives and things like that, wife and children. He doesn't even know what school his son studies in. And by talking like that in society all the time, what happened eventually is that men said, oh, the right thing to do is to spend time with your wife and children. So then they started doing that. Now you hear what society says. Nowadays, I don't know if you've noticed, so many women say this. Oh, these men, they don't work. They're not high achievers. They find nobody to marry because they're not doing very well. And they make up your mind. If you have to be a high achiever, if you have to do very well, then you have to identify with that work. You cannot say, I'll hold my wife's hand and sit at home. And if you're holding your wife's hand and sitting at home, then you cannot become a high achiever there. So I am not suggesting one is better than the other. All I'm trying to draw all our attention to is we don't seem to have an understanding of what is going on. That's all that Vedanta draws our attention to. We are either, we don't get it. Whatever side of it we are, we want the advantages of the other. That is not good. You can decide to marry a high achiever, in which case he will be totally identified with his work. Or you can decide to marry somebody who's very identified with the family and is not that bothered about his work. And say, no, I want one who's got everything. Then please, you get one be yourself one who's got everything. Why do you want somebody who's got everything? You do it, no? If you think that's possible. So this whole concept of Karma Yoga is the concept of, in one word,
Identification.
Oh, wonderful. This class is superb. Everybody is listening carefully. This is what it should be, right? Everybody knows the answer. That's how it should be. Yes, the concept of Karma Yoga is the concept of identification. What have you identified with? It is not random acts of kindness. It is not suddenly waking up and doing something good. So many people work for Vedanta and they say, I want to do something for the cause. I want to do something for the cause is good, obviously, and we are very grateful to the people who do this. But Karma Yoga is when the cause is you. There is no difference between you and the cause. When you function like that, in the spiritual world, you attain enlightenment. When you function like that in the material world, you become a high achiever. If you know how to function like this, you can be an achiever in either field. If you don't know how to function like this, you will be an achiever in neither field. Okay, is that clear? How high achievement is a result of this capacity of identification. Momita. But as householders, how do we identify with the spiritual path completely? I don't understand. Why do you find a dichotomy between being a householder and identifying with the spiritual path? Like a householder does what? Let us say you look after your children, for instance, right? So that's, you're identified with the self. Let us say you're looking at, I'm talking from a spiritual point of view, okay? So you're identified with the self. You see your children as the self. Where's the problem?
No, like I'm also campaigning. I also have an interest in developing myself spiritually through Vedanta. But I can't identify, I find it difficult to identify completely there because my priorities, my actions remain identified with what my children need, what my family needs.
Yeah, so we have to grow up, right? We are all like that. Don't say I am like that. We're all like that. Every one of us identifies with our families, with our work, with our everything, more than we identify with higher power. This is the fact of our existence. But what we have to understand is all our troubles are generated out of this. When we elevate that, then the principles of that elevation will start coming into action. Otherwise, you cannot say my priority is family and then 10 years later say, oh, I've been doing Vedanta for 10 years, but now I'm so unhappy because X, Y, or Z happened. You see what I mean? It's all cause and effect. It's not an advice or a suggestion. It is simply cause and effect. To the extent that we identify with the higher, to that extent we are shielded and our potential will come through. To the extent we don't, we will create problems in our lives. Now your point is, but we don't. Yes, that is correct. We don't. It's a wonderful step forward to even realize this. Because it's all wonderful to talk all these great things. But when the tire hits the road, when the going gets tough, we begin to see that, oh, though I claim all this, actually that's not what's happening with my life. Understanding this is a great step forward. Now you have to decide for yourself what you want to do. Where do you want that identification to? Now, if your question is how, as householders, how do we identify completely with the spiritual path? It is, I'm assuming you're not asking methodology. I'm assuming how is this done in the sense ki how will a householder do it? It's exactly the same thing. If you're identified with the self, you see your children as the self. If you just understand that their well-being lies far beyond what my interaction with them is. 9 out of 10 times, parents, spouses, friends, everybody consider the other's well-being as only those things which satisfy them. Suppose my husband wants to be an artist. But if he is an artist, then my life will come to a standstill, right? How on earth am I supposed to run the house? So I want him to be a corporate executive because that'll help me run my house. Right? So when we live at that level, when I claim to be wanting your well-being, all I really want is my own. So when I start identifying with the higher, I'm really concerned now about your well-being. So I'm a much better parent, spouse, child, everything. I mean, I've seen so many children who now, everyone is living longer, way longer than we used to. And the probability is all of us will probably live to be 100. When I tell people that, they tell me, no, just 2 days ago, I heard about this person who was only 40 years old and he died. The reason that surprises you is because it is surprising. It is not normal. There was a time where people didn't reach 40. There was a time where 60 we used to celebrate. There used to be, Dr. Bharati, you will remember, Shashti Purti. 60 years you reached.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, whole big thing. You became 60 years old. Wow. I mean, congratulations, you reached this wonderful age. Now what? People who are 80 and 90 are going to work. Right? So we are all going to live till we are 100. So you remember where we were, by the way? Look, as a speaker, the speaker has the right to go wherever they want. As a listener, you have to know what the point was. Where were we? Remember? Why are we talking about becoming 100 years old?
We're talking about how we are attached to be identified with the family.
Okay, so what is it to do with becoming 100 years old?
The family itself changes.
Yeah.
I mean, our children become...
Our parents are now living longer and longer. So many of us take decisions for those parents who are now much older based on what is convenient for us. For instance, actually, this happened in this building and I really appreciated these guys. One man, elderly person, his wife passed away. And the children, or I don't know how they managed it, what they did. It's a joint family, a Gujarati joint family, very, very traditional family. They've got that man married again. Now just think about it. How many people, suppose your father wants to remarry, how many of us will be okay with this idea? We'll be like horrified, no, log kya bolenge? We will not even consider what the father needs or the mother needs. We will all be considering, how does this affect me? So as people, I'm not suggesting, please, that every elderly person get married or remarried. I'm not suggesting this. I'm just giving it as an example of how we, in our claim for looking after people, looking after our family, they're all doing self-serving things. So as an householder, how do we identify completely with the spiritual path? How as anything would you know? Because if you want to do any role properly, the only way you'll do it properly is when you are identified with the spiritual. Otherwise, what happens is from every role, you are expecting other people to live their life in a way that suits you. Suppose your husband wants to leave you and marry somebody else. How many women will sit down and make an assessment? Is this second lady good for him? Will it be a good match? Who will do that? Nobody, right? They'll say, how dare you? Who do you think you are? No. All this will go on. I'm not please suggesting it. I am not making any recommendations over here. All I'm trying to do is show you how we see everything from my point of view. When we are a normal householder. But when we are a spiritual householder, it's always from the other's point of view. Because you are the self, I am the self. Now, we will do what is the most sensible thing to be done.
Madam, one question.
Thank you, Janki.
Madam, one question. In continuation of last week's lectures, I did a little bit of manan and I got a little confusion. So I'll just put a few points, tell where I'm confused. So, Madam, you said you first fix a higher ideal. Then for the higher ideal, we got to have a target. Ideal has no meaning unless you have a target to
it's
achieve.
Specific, yeah.
Yeah.
The
Okay,
idea
let's say I want to self-realize this lifetime. Let's assume, hypothetically. But I don't even know whether I'll live tomorrow. That's what Momita was trying to say. There'll be a lot of surprises on the way, right? So I don't know how long to live. So target, I don't know how to fix, number one. Number two, I'm
okay,
not
let's
even.
go step by step. No.
I'm going step by step.
No, let's deal with it at every step. So number one, I fix a target, ideal, and then you're saying fix a target. What it means is you have to be specific about the ideal. You cannot just say some
Lifetime, on this lifetime.
Okay, in this lifetime.
Okay.
So then you have to make some kind of assessment of how long do you expect to live and find out whether that amount of time that you expect to live is enough to achieve the target that you've set. Suppose, for instance, I set a target, I want to eradicate poverty in this country. All right, now I am, let us say, 60 years old. And I'm anticipating I have another 40 years. So I have to think, based on our fact that 100 years we're all going to live. So I have another 40 years. So do I think I can eradicate poverty in 40 years? This is my first question, because I'm applying myself. If my answer is yes, then I move on to the methodology. If my answer is no, I say, okay, I can't eradicate poverty in 40 years. Then what do I think I can do? I can decrease the percentage below poverty line from whatever it is now. I believe it is what? 15-20%, right? Below poverty line. I can maybe try to make that 10% or 5%, whatever. But I make it what I think is realistic.
Achievable.
Now, yeah, achievable. Now I have to think. So now your question is, okay, I did that. Now, I don't know whether I'm going to live till tomorrow. This is something you have to consider when you are doing the program. It is not something you consider otherwise. In other words, that I may not live tomorrow is a 50% chance to that I will live tomorrow.
Totally.
Right? At every moment, even if you're 110 years old, your chance of not living tomorrow is exactly the same as living tomorrow, because it's a yes and no situation, right? So if I were to say that at 110, my chance is 50% of living tomorrow, what is my chance when I'm 20 years old?
Higher.
No, wrong.
No,
Still 50.
Still 50. Because it's a yes and no situation.
Okay.
Okay, for any human being, for any being, whether they are going to live the next moment or not, the chance is always 50%. Right? So once you accepted that, then it's very simple, because then nobody can set a goal based on this theory. So age does not matter in setting a goal, because whether we will live tomorrow or not. Okay, some of us are older in the class, some of us are younger in the class, some are 20-year-olds, some are 80-year-olds. The chance of any of us living tomorrow continues to be 50%, because always yes and no. Right? So if we accept this argument, nobody can ever put any goal. So ignore it.
But you last time said set a ideal and a target
That's
number
correct.
of years.
Yes.
That's
No,
contradicting what you're.
right? You have assumed, say you're 60 years old, then you assume 40 years.
I agree.
And that you may not be alive tomorrow or not is a 50%
A 50-50 chance, correct.
Right. So therefore, you cannot bring that into the discussion at all, because that is common to everybody. Okay. So
set a target 100, 60, and 40. How do I achieve it? And if it doesn't happen,
is
then
it achievable in 40 years?
you have to put in that much effort. Yeah. That much effort you have to put in.
Yeah, but you must have the ability, right? What is the use of saying I have to put in that much effort, but that effort is not something I can do? So I have to be realistic. Okay, I want to lose 5 kgs. Can I lose it in this month? If I put in enough effort, I can. But can I put in that kind of effort that will make me lose 5 kgs in this month? It's unrealistic. So if I say I want to lose 2 kgs in the month, then okay, I can understand that that's a reasonable sort of thing to do. So you have to be reasonable about it, whatever your goal or target is. And that is what is engaging the intellect. That's what we want. That engagement of the intellect. Because at the end of the day, whatever you achieve or you don't achieve is immaterial. It is how much have you engaged your intellect. That is really the outcome we're looking for. The more you've engaged the intellect, the more viveka has grown. The more viveka has grown, the closer you are going to be to the ultimate ideal. So realistic. Now I have to do, suppose you say I have to be enlightened in the next 40 years. If I have to be enlightened in the next 40 years, then in the next 20 years, where do I have to be? I should have reached a position of at least renunciation. Okay, so will I reach renunciation in 20 years' time? If I have to reach renunciation in 20 years' time, then what is it that I will have to do from today for the next 20 years? Is this thing doable? Like one very nice man said, I want to become a millionaire in the next 2 months. So how do you become a millionaire? Very silly, it's simple. You put ₹1 million in the bank, you become a millionaire. But how do I get the ₹1 million to put into the bank? There's where work is involved. So, to talk in the air is very easy. It is when you get down to the brass tacks and the rubber hits the road, then you're talking. Right now we say I want to build university. Very easy to say I want to build university. Saying that is easy. Now get down to work. All of us in the class, or many of us in the class, feel dedicated to that idea. And it's like a soap opera that goes on. Every time we get this land and we are, oh wow, we're so close. This is the land. And we're all very excited and we say, oh wow, we're finally getting the land. And yeah, we can even afford it. Doing crowdfunding, a little bit more we get, we can pay. Then we find, oh, but then this thing has come up and then that thing has come up at the moment. What happened today? I was discussing with Surinder. The current land which we want to buy, it is 8 acres of it is forest land. And that's why the price has come down so low that we can actually go tomorrow and buy it. But Surinder says, no, they can't own this forest land. So how can they sell it? But they claim they own it. So now we are stuck. Again, we are stuck. This is our daily story, okay? This is like every day we go through this thing. Every day something is moving back and forth. Now, what is important is not all these goings on. What is important is how much we are engaging, thinking about this, thinking about it. What's the better way of doing it? How will it work better? How can we be practical about it? You talk to anybody. I've spoken to everybody. I spoke to Warburg Pincus. I've spoken to everybody. They say you're crazy. There's no way you're going to get land in the price you're talking. It's just not going to happen. And we have actually seen so many lands where we could. They can't believe it. They're going to come, I think, and take consultancy from us after some time because they are not able to buy it in this price. But we have options. So, but as I told you, these options it's a daily thing. Like Momita is listening very carefully now, because yesterday what she heard from me is different from what she's hearing from me right now. It's a daily changing thing. But what is interesting is that it is not the accomplishment of that idea that is important, but your intellectual engagement. And that's why you have to be realistic. That's why all that thing starts. That's why you have to anticipate. That's why you have to think it through. Because we're not here to improve the world, for heaven's sake. We're here to improve ourselves. But the world is our, what can I call it? What is that wheel? You know, that have you all seen that wheel, that knife guy, the knife grinding wheel, you've seen it? Nadine, you've seen the knife grinding wheel? No.
Yeah.
No, Nadine may have never seen it. Many years ago in India, the man would come with like on a cycle with a big, that's that one. And then he would start to sharpen your knives. Yeah, you know that one. Now that's a very rough stone. And you have to give him your knife and then he will do something and give you a sharp knife back. So that rough stone is the world. And you sharpen your knife, you sharpen your intellect on that. So that's why you need the goal. The goal is there so that we can engage. Otherwise, it's so easy, right? Talking big, sitting at home and talking big is the easiest thing. It is show me the money, honey. Not you, honey beans, but just show me the money. Don't talk big. Show me the money. Show me the money means show the result. That's why people get confused. They say Vedanta says, don't think about results. Then they say, show me the results, make up your mind. You want the results or you don't want the results. But I hope you're getting it. Okay, so is that clear? Why we do all this whole process, fix a goal, make it realistic, think whether it's going to work, how is it going to work, how many ways of making it work? You're doing it because?
We want to engage the intellect.
Because?
We want to engage the intellect.
To engage the intellect. Very good. So then you will say, oh, so it's okay whether you achieve the target or not. No, it's not okay. Because if you didn't achieve the target, you didn't engage the intellect. You don't say, oh, so it's okay then. I engaged my intellect, but it all went wrong. Sorry, then you haven't engaged the intellect. Okay, is that clear? Right. Do you have any other point? Okay. So, Reshma, isn't identification the crux in all three yogas? Okay, it's of course, identification is the crux in all three yogas, but it's a different thing. I mean, the word is the same. In Bhakti Yoga, the identification is a feeling of oneness. In Jnana Yoga, the identification is in the recognition of the permanence. And in Karma Yoga, the identification is feeling one with the cause. So the identification aspect is the same, but it's done with three different perspectives because of which equipments you're engaging.
Right, I just got confused because you said karma yoga in one word is identification, but that would apply to the other two as well.
That is correct, but in the type of identification is different. Like identification as in love is Bhakti Yoga. identification as in permanence, as in seeing the permanence, is Jnana Yoga. An identification with a cause, with an ideal, with something beyond your selfish, self-centered interest is Karma Yoga. So that identification is same. We could have said that for all three. But here, when it was spoken about that Karma Yoga is identification, it is more to distinguish between the concept of doing good work, doing charitable work, or doing social work, or doing volunteer work, or any such thing, almost as a help or as a, what should I say, as a good act, versus feeling one with that thing. That is it. It is the difference between, a man going to work, he works from 10 to 5. He goes and works 10 to 5. But the owner of that organization, he doesn't work 10 to 5. He is with it all the time. That thing is in his head. It is, it's like, if you're working there, when the day gets over, you close your book and you go home. Right? That's different from how an achiever does it. If you want to be a high achiever, even if you are working there, even if you are an employee there, but you want to be a high achiever, then that has to be you. You have to feel one with it. Are you seeing the difference? So identification was spoken of to differentiate it from that.
So, madam, the other, if I extend the same thought.
Just 1 second. Reshma, are you okay?
So we are still saying that identification will be general across all three, but the difference between identification with a cause and doing or being good work, that is the only demarcation here.
Not the only demarcation, that is what is the point of it. That it becomes Karma Yoga when you have that kind of dedication to it. It's not like, what shall I say? There are some people who come and work at a voluntary organization. They say, I'll give you 1 day a week, or I'll give you a few hours a week. That's one thing. It's not bad. Nobody says it's bad. It's a nice thing that people do that. But it's different from owning it. This is mine. I own it. You can't, like, poor Mahesh is always getting into trouble because he say, oh, I can't do that. It's too tough for me. But if you don't do it, who will do it? We own it, right? Who are we supposed to? We own it. Whoever feels like this is mine has to do it. In your own house, it's like that, no? Whoever feels the house is mine has to keep it clean. Those who, who don't feel like that, they are least bothered about keeping it clean. It's like the buck stops here. How many of us in the class, those people in this class are dedicated to the university, who feel that I have to buy this plot. I mean, not particularly, not egoistically, but this is something that we have to now accomplish. Are you seeing the difference between these two things?
Yeah, I'll just think about it some more. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chandwani.
Madam, as an extension to the same thought process that you're talking about, the owner vis-a-vis the employee, if you're on the spiritual path and you want to say, high achiever in that line, on that path, let's put it that way. So your manan doesn't have to be necessarily only between 4 to 6 for 1 hour. Throughout the day, as you're moving around, things keep hitting you and you say, oh, see that point, you try to connect up the jigsaw and try to make the big picture, and you look around and say, okay, this is also self, this is also self, oh, that lady is also the self. So it sort of becomes an open-eyed meditation in a way. So it's not a 1 hour job in the morning. It could also be a 15 hour, 16 hour that you're awake, that it could be a it's you own it, as you say. The own is to reach some growth in spirituality. Let's put it that way. You don't achieve the final stage. So I would be right in thinking that way?
There is no, if you are trying to get away from morning study, there is
No, I'm not trying.
going
No.
on.
They're mixing up. No, that is on.
That is on. Yes. Then
But I'm not.
everything else is
I may not be able to do it. That's a separate issue because of my medical issue. That's it. But let us assume I'm doing that. But I shouldn't stop there. I should keep
yeah, you should not.
throughout the day. I'm
You
not
should
using.
not stop
I'm not
anywhere. Correct.
I'm
You
not
should
using
not
it as
stop
an.
anywhere.
I'm
But
not
you
using that as
cannot-
an excuse.
Yeah, but you cannot stop it at doing only the things I enjoy doing. That is the thing, right? It is very easy for us to do the ones we enjoy. That is why you have a list. Do this list because that shows you have control over yourself. Now you say I have a medical problem because of which I cannot wake up early. But some point you have to wake up, right? Whatever point you do wake up, study at that time.
But it may be beyond 6. Then you start studying,
Yeah.
and throughout the day you start contemplating. Oh, how does this become self? How the permanence, as you say, of self.
Yes, but you cannot. I mean, you see, I can't answer yes or no because you don't know what else you're doing. There are people. Yeah, Swamiji used to tell us that when he was at the mission and he was studying there, people would sit under the tree and you ask them, what are you doing? They're contemplating on the self. Arey, kaam kaun karega? You see, so we can avoid work which we don't want by talking about great things.
So I'll add on to that. While I'm doing my work, something hits you.
Yeah, so the point
That's
is
the point.
not what you're doing or not doing. The point is always the principle, which is these are the things that need to be done. And are we doing them all? Besides that, every thought of the self is great.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. So,
Janki ji,
yeah.
you said engaging the intellect is more important than the accomplishment of the ideal. But what do you mean by that? Is it because by engaging your intellect, you are ensuring that you are in the right track?
Okay. So what
Is
we are
it
trying to
just
do?
to ensure?
Yeah, what we are trying to get to eventually is the building up of, we are all into the Jnana Yoga path, right?
Yes.
So what we are trying to get to is discrimination of Viveka. That's where we are headed, right? What is Viveka? Viveka is the capacity to discriminate between the permanent and the impermanent. Right? So this is where we want to reach. Now, Viveka is a quality of the intellect.
Okay.
So when we do our karma and we are not engaging the intellect, then we are not continuing on our path. And just doing work like that only. Man mein aaya, kiya, nahi kiya. How do you control your likes and dislikes like that?
Okay.
That is why it's extremely important to achieve the target. Because that tells you you are forced to control your likes and dislikes. Right? So you have a date. Now, Momita has taken on herself many projects. One of the projects she has is to make How Do You Know What You Know into an audio. So she has to have a date that this book has to be ready by this date. Now you say, what's the big deal? Even if it's not ready by that date, of course, it's no big deal, making no difference to anyone. But it will make a difference to her because that's the date. Now she's in the middle of 4 projects. So she cannot have the same date for all 4, otherwise she'll go mad. So she has to be able to fix. Okay, on this date, this is happening. This date, this is happening. This one is coming out on this date. This one is coming out on this date. Are these targets realistic? That's how she'll engage. Now you are also working. You're working on this crowdfunding thing, and you are working on the CSR list. Right? Now you did the CSR list. But the question is, even though we send them one mail and they didn't respond, then are we going to forget about them now? No. After some point, we should think what's ending all those people again, right? So that there's a greater chance when they read it the second time. So you're engaged. Otherwise, you just, oh, I was to make this list. I made this list. Now I'm making this list. And it's not like that. It's not clerical work. But we engaged. Like how you came up with a list. You know, I don't know if you all know, Elsie came up with a list of, I don't know, all the businesses in Rajasthan. Rajasthan, no, something like that. Yeah, all businesses in Rajasthan. So we send them a CSR mail. But we can't let it go having sent one. We have to make sure it goes twice, or you have to have a thought. How many times do you think we should send this mail before they will take any cognizance of our existence? Because you're engaged. Otherwise, that is done. Now start something else. And then you leave that. Then you start something else. Each thing was taken to its logical end. Because you're engaged.
Thank you.
This is a very important portion for us because most people are already involved in karma. Almost everybody I see is involved in some karma or the other. So very important we understand it correctly and understand how it is taking us to that goal. Right? Now, by identification, we create the energy, the enthusiasm, the motivation to work. This is the first part of Karma Yoga. I hope this portion is very clear. The moment you feel one with the ideal, you get so much energy and so much motivation to work. When we had the retreat in Paris, Nadine was running 24 hours a day. She was cooking for us. She was taking yoga classes for us. She was organizing the retreat. Where does she get so much energy from? If you look at her running from pillar to post, you will get tired. So much energy she had. So the moment you identify with it, because retreat, total identification. She did it from beginning to end. So total identification. So it generates energy, it generates motivation, it generates energy to perform. Whatever we can identify. But having identified it, we can also lose that energy. How do we lose this energy?
By being
By
stuck.
worrying about the fruit.
Sorry, one please. Momita, yeah, go ahead.
By worrying about the fruit, the results.
Very good. Reshma,
Future and past. Thinking of the future and past.
very good. Who else said something?
Dedicating to multiple activities.
Having multiple activities is fine. We will have to have multiple activities. Our goal has to be one, but the activities can be many.
But getting excited over the
Very good. So 3 ways in which we dissipate our energy. Number 1, craving for some result. Longing for that result to take place. Number 2, some anxiety about the past. That didn't happen, that happened so well, and now this is not happening, something useless thing about the past. And thirdly, extreme excitement in the present. Oh, you're so excited. Then you can't function. So even if we are identified with the higher, we still need to attend to the mind getting overexcited by going into the past or future or present. And if you attend to both these things, how can you not achieve? It will be impossible not to achieve. Right? So first step is to the identification with the high. Second thing is, don't let the mind get involved. That's why though we say we have to build up the university, we also say we are not here to do anything in this world. We cannot keep improving this world. So dedicated to the university, but not excited about it. That's how it has to be. Dedicated to enlightenment. We're not excited about it. Dedicated to solving problems. We're not excited about it. If you can manage both of these, then you've got it. Okay, clear so far? Shall we read the next paragraph?
Just one thing, Janki-ji. On the past and the future is reasonably clear that it's a sort of a dissipation, but people say that unless you really believe in the present and what you're doing and you're completely involved, then you don't achieve the result. So I'm not, it keeps on getting more confused. When I hear about being feverishly involved in the present is also a way of dissipating emotion.
Identification has to be with the higher. But, so when people say you have to be involved, what they're talking is they have to feel one with the project. That identification. People are using words differently, so don't go by the words. Understand what they're trying to get at.
Mm.
That identification, that ownership of the project has to be yours. Excitement is that you're so excited about that ownership that you're not able to function. Can anyone give an example?
Meeting your idol in person.
Okay. You meet your idol in person, you meet a celebrity in person. When I was young, I remember, when I used to meet ochre-robed people, I was like, I couldn't approach them because I was so overwhelmed with the feeling of ochre-robed, what it represents. Couldn't. Sometimes at the ashram, some Swami would come or something, not very often, but the fact is like seeing somebody in ochre robes, genuine people, not the roadside beggar, genuine ochre robe people. It's impossible. You can't conduct yourself anymore. It's called excitement in the present. Or if Momita. So we have an ideal, but we do not idealize. Yes, Momita. Momita is training to be an author, so she comes up with all this. Yes, correct. So we have an ideal, but we do not idealize. Correct. Good. There is no excitement about it. Kalyan, you give an example.
I'm just thinking.
Okay, how's this? That you identify with the business that you're working in, but you don't get excited when the top boss or owner or whoever that person is comes. I mean, his presence and absence is not making a difference to what you're doing. Yeah?
Yeah.
Janki ji. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. So just like Kalyan said, like excitement, and you also gave an example like excitement and dedication. Now, like if we are dedicated to building the university, but we can't do all, like we can't give contribution to all aspects of university. So does that mean that we are not dedicated?
Oh my God, of course not. How can everybody do everything? But you must have ownership of everything. Then your own department you will run very well. Right? Because every aspect of it, right? See, suppose you have to buy land. Accounts department has to be involved because they have to give the funds. That means the funds have to be there, no, for them to give it. So every aspect will be related to accounts department.
So I have this personal question because I was requested that I should call people to get involved in this university, and I refused that I cannot do that. So does that mean that I'm not dedicated? Or
Nobody else can determine whether you are dedicated or not. You will determine that. And your dedication doesn't have to be proved to anybody.
okay.
You don't have to say, oh, what will that person say? Let them say what they want. You do what you can do. And you're doing a very important job, right? You're already doing a very important job. If you didn't do your job, nobody else could do their job.
Okay.
So whatever you feel that you should be doing, go ahead and do it. Nobody has to tell you what to do or not to do. Why would it? And you don't have to prove your dedication to anyone.
Thank
But
you.
yes, as someone who's identified with the cause, we need another 1.5 crores pretty quickly. This
Yes, of course.
You know exactly how much we have and how much we need.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
so you have to think big picture, not just think receipts and audit reports and you own the project.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So now this last paragraph in the text, which we are about to do, is a very important paragraph because it gives the whole spiritual path. And that must be in our heads as we sort of proceed in our path, the whole thing. So who will read it? So much silence. What are you all thinking so much about? Who will read it?
I'll read.
Go ahead. Oh, sorry. Sorry, honey, you do it next time. Go ahead, mommy.
No, actually, Honey can read.
No, it's okay. It's perfectly fine.
With the pursuit of the appropriate yogas, the mind is freed from the bulk of desires. You develop a sense of dispassion, a feeling of renunciation. Your mind withdraws from its involvement in the affairs of the world, indicated in the diagram as Uparati withdrawal. When Uparati sets in, you develop mental concentration, dharana. With sustained abstraction from the world and concentration upon the higher, you enter the last stage of meditation, which is dhyan. And in deep meditation, the single pointed thought ultimately dissolves in absolute silence. In that silence, you attain samadhi, spiritual enlightenment. So here, this diagram shows the spiritual path where we follow the 3 yogas. And the mind is, first, we withdraw from the world, which is Uparati, which leads us to a sense of renunciation, and we develop concentration. And concentration helps us meditate. And even that final thought we lose when we attain samadhi.
Except, what did you say about withdrawal?
Withdrawal helps us develop withdrawal helps us concentrate.
Yeah, what you said was first we must withdraw. No, that's not a correct concept. First you must do what?
The 3 yogas.
The 3 yogas. The consequence of the 3 yogas is?
Renunciation.
Is withdrawal. When the mind many people do this. They think that they have to withdraw from something. You don't have to withdraw from anything. That is not going to help us develop. What is going to help us develop is that we
Do the 3 yogas.
do the 3 yogas. When we do the 3 yogas, what is the consequence of doing the 3 yogas? When you do the 3 yogas, what happens? Now don't say withdrawal. What happens?
bulk of
only-
desires goes down.
Very good. The bulk of desires reduces. Since desires are fewer, your mind is not going anywhere. The mind can only go where there's a desire, right? If there's no desire, where is it going to go? So the mind stops running here and there because there is nowhere for it to run. This state is called uparati. Now you will say, I want to go to here, I want to go there, I want to achieve this, I want to achieve that, because these are our desires. If the desire itself is not there, what are you going to ask for? Now, when you don't have this kind of thing, you're not full of these desires. Mind is available. You can, mind is available. Then you can
Concentrate.
then you can concentrate. It is so tough to achieve concentration, so tough. If you give a person 5 instructions, you can be sure that at least 3 will not be done. So you have to make up for that. You give 1 instruction, wait for it to be done. Give instruction number 2, wait for it to be done. So once the mind has withdrawn, you can concentrate. When your concentration reaches very high levels, it is called meditation. Very high levels means you can concentrate on one thought alone. And that is the gateway to enlightenment. So we'll talk about this a little bit more next time. And